a brush and put a little makeup. Hide the scars to fade away. Hide the scars to fade away. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to grab a brush and put a little makeup. You wanted to hide the scars to fade away with a shake-up. You wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? You wanted to. I don't think you trust in my self-righteous suicide. I cry when angels deserve to die.
And good morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on what part of the globe you're on and what time zone you are in. I am Skeptically Speaking.
And I am Sweet Pea from across the pond.
And we have an awesome show for you today. We have a special guest, and I am excited about it. Now, before we get into this, just to show you how the day is ending, I literally pull out of work. I pull out of work, and I'm heading away from the shop, and a buck comes out of the woods and starts running alongside of my van as I'm heading towards the intersection. And I'm like, motherfucker, you better not jump in front of me. You better not. And he ran alongside me, ran into the woods. And that's the first buck I've seen this year. I'm heading towards the highway, and a cat, runs across 4 lanes of highway. No problem. I get to the main road leading to my house, and a coyote just runs right out in front of me. I didn't have time to react. I'm like, my foot is hovering over the brake. I'm like, you son of a... I'm like, this is great. This is great. What's next? I'm going to back into my driveway and run over a skunk. That'd make the night just perfect for me. I couldn't make this. It's like Cinderella or Snow White in reverse. I don't know. You have.
I don't know why they're playing chicken with you.
I guess. I mean, you have hedgehogs where you're from. Do you have hedgehogs run out in front of you? No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And like various other creatures, yeah. It could be quite frightening.
Nice.
I nearly accidentally stepped on a baby hedgehog the other week. I was going out for a walk. I think it was like at 4 a.m. and it was like completely dark.
Yeah, you showed me pictures.
I didn't get. Yeah, and like it was just kind of in the way, and I don't know. I had a sixth sense to put my torch on,
yeah.
So I did, and there was just like this little baby hedgehog like sitting right in front of the path, and I nearly squished the poor thing. It made me feel really guilty.
Yeah. So that's how my night is going so far. Right before the show, I'm like, we're going to do this show correctly. We're doing 1792 bourbon today.
Okay.
I'm just.
That's good.
We're gonna get, and I've got my tea, so honey sweetened. Well, anyway, let's get to our special guest. We have David Johnson with us from the group QueerSatanic. Now, you're probably wondering how Satan just seems to be in the news all of a sudden. It's like he's everywhere. Coincidence? Now, I can't blame Satan for the animal goof-ups that I had just tonight. That's something God would probably do, I'm thinking. I don't think Satan would be. Well, let's hear it from the expert. David Johnson from QueerSatanic. Are you with us?
Howdy, I am. Thank you all for having me on this evening, this night. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the devil sends animals out. I feel like in the Bible that was Jesus's fault when he put the spirits into the pigs that ran into the water. If
that sounds like something Christ
hadn't been on Jesus.
Yeah, something Christ would do. All right, I feel better.
I blame Christ. Yeah,
blame it on the Christ. Oh,
Well, welcome, David. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes.
Thank you all for having me, especially on short notice. Y'all made a video last week. I got into your DMs or replies, and I was like, you should watch this video, which was the Dead Domain video. It's like 2 hours. And to my surprise and delight, y'all did, which I thought spoke very highly of you. You were like, I would like to take in new information that challenges my preconceptions. And y'all did that, which was very cool.
Yeah, that's what we try. I mean, we don't always get it. Obviously we didn't. So just to show how our paths crossed was last week we did a expose on the Satanic Temple. Everywhere you looked, there was a post about the Satanic Temple feeding the hungry, because as you know, our clown car posse of a government decided it was a good idea to cut SNAP benefits. And guess what? A bunch of Christians got on social media, showed their entire ass, and bragged about people getting their SNAP benefits cut. They're not going to get any benefits, and they're just rubbing their hands. They're the guy in yellow behind the tree rubbing their hands, going, "It's just going to be good. We're going to see some people suffer." And then, out of the blue, I see post after post after post about the Satanic Temple. Now, I saw all this. Now, I did notice one thing. There wasn't any media coverage of it. And I thought to myself, well, this is Trump's America. Why would they want to even cover the Satanic Temple? You know?
Do you know? And I was thinking the same when, I looked, because, I said to you as well, I couldn't see any news articles on it. And I was like, well, I don't know if this is Trump's media repressing it. And I was just like...
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they've repressed it because they only want their disinformation rhetoric out there. In retrospect, I wish that we had done a further look into things.
So I did a glowing report. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. Suck on that, Christians.
It was pretty glowing. Yeah.
The Satanic Temple is going to save the day.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I was like, that is peak irony. Satanists doing the work that Christians claim to be doing. Satanists doing the work that Christians should be doing. And I thought, this is perfect. It was too good to be true. As David is going to talk about later on, is where it originated from. This disinformation, it seemed to be looking back, it seems to be coordinated. Anyway, we did a whole video on it. We were so excited, and then I got a comment saying, "Why would you think the Satanic Temple would feed anybody or have the wherewithal to do that?" And I'm like, I clicked on the person's profile, and I'm like, oh, well, this isn't a random. This wasn't just a random comment. So it made me think, oh shit, did we get something crossed? So I went ahead and that's when I found the video, and I'm like, oh damn. And it was a 2-hour video, basically, and I don't want to spoil anything, but basically it kind of gave the game away as far as the Satanic Temple is concerned. And it was very disappointing is another word. So just before you get into your background, I have to give you a little bit of mine. To understand how I got to where we are today. It goes all the way back to 2016, 2017, where I made my way out of fundamentalist Christianity. I am a former independent fundamental Baptist. And so I got out of that. I ended up getting into atheist groups. I became an admin. I mean, I was just fresh out of religion, and I just wanted to learn everything I can. That's where I learned about Christopher Hitchens. I learned about the Four Horsemen of the
Four Horsemen.
The Four Horsemen. Yeah, Sam, Bennett
Harris.
and Harris. Yeah, thank you, Sam Harris. And I got into Richard Dawkins. There you go. Who's sinking his reputation? That's a whole nother story. Sad.
Yep.
Anyway, rabbit trails. And so I got into this group, and then one of our admins was talking about getting into Satanism. I'm like, the only frame of reference for Satanism was what I learned in church, and that was, Satan is behind rock music, and if you play rock music backwards, you'll get satanic message. Oh, the whole 9 yards. I had read
Boy,
books.
They make it sound cool, don't they? They make it sound cool as hell.
You talk about free advert. You could not pay for that kind of publicity. That it was, and the Christians did it all for him. It's like, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Off subject. There's a story of Ozzy Osbourne. A bunch of Christians are protesting his concert. He's there early. He joins the protesters, and they give him a sign to hold, and he's marching with them. And then he hears the cue sign, the sound that, hey, we need to do a sound check so we can start. So he says, okay, gotta go. I gotta go to work. Thanks, guys. Hands the sign off and runs into they didn't even know who he was. He's just there, having a good time marching with these protesters. Anyway, love that story.
Right. In a similar way, the Martin Scorsese movie, The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh my
huge amount
God.
of people protesting it before it came out. And they hadn't even seen it yet.
Yeah.
And I think interestingly, like that book is written by a Orthodox Christian. Like the guy was an Orthodox Christian believer. And so he is writing about so if Jesus is fully God and fully man, what does it mean to be fully man? That's sort of like what the whole book is about. It's not even heretical. It's not even blasphemous. But it was still protested because it was looking at religion of specifically Christianity in a way that was outside of the norm of American Christianity.
Yeah,
but they got a lot better. More people knew about it and saw it because of that. Same thing with Life of Brian, the Monty Python.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that film. But yeah, so the only frame of reference for Satanism was that. So then I got into the Thinking Atheist podcast run by Seth Andrews. I've got 3 of his books here. And he did an interview with Lucian Greaves. And so I'm like, well, hot damn.
Yep.
let me turn aside and see this great site, press play. And I listened to it. And Lucian Greaves came across as charming. He was funny. He was it was a great interview. And I thought, oh, this is awesome. There's an actual group pushing back against fundamentalist Christianity. Well, hot damn. Let's have more of that. And then he did 2 more. I think he did 2 more interviews later on, and that has basically been the majority. And then the website has been the majority of the information that I've had on the Satanic Temple. So coming back full circle to today, when I hear, oh, the Satanic Temple is going to be doing this and this and this, and then I go on their website, oh my God, they've got good works folder section. I'm thinking, damn. And so we've got to cover this, goddammit. And we did.
I do want to talk about that. I understand, though, Sweet Pea, before we started this, you said that you are ex-Catholic. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
And I know that there was a bit of a satanic panic in the UK, but I don't know the contours of it. Was that a thing that you were raised with as well? The satanic panic.
Not around the time. That was around the time that I was coming into sort of paganism. So I do know I was having extensive talks with my sort of priest. But there was a lot of people in the Catholic Church that was panicking about the Satanists enough. I sort of stayed away from them. I stayed away from reading about them because, according to the priest, the devil knows everything that you're sort of doing
Yeah.
pretty much like God, so you can't give him a foothold in the door. So you don't look, you don't hear, you don't speak about the devil whatsoever. So I pretty much stayed away from that whole thing ashamedly. I should have been more open-minded to, see what was going
you
on.
said ashamedly, but what era was this?
This would have been in.
So you said you stayed away ashamedly. What era was this, though?
This would have been the 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, I think the early, by the late aughts it was a little bit different. Like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, Satanism was shitty, but for like boring reasons, right? Like the thing is, the reasons they were telling you were not true. But like Satanism as it existed back in that day was like very fascy, Nazi adjacent. But that's not why the priest had a problem with it. But that's what was actually what made them like weird dudes that you probably didn't want to associate with.
It wasn't talked about until after I got my phone when I was 18, and no, I was 16, and that was 2000s. We didn't talk about it in the house. It wasn't talked about in the church. I was considered a child, so I would get sent off to go talk with other children while the adults went over and sort of had their conversation in a different room. So I was very sheltered from it.
Yeah, a commonality, it sounds like, is you're both raised Christian, raised somewhat conservative Christian, and taught things about the devil, Satan, etc., that are like demonstrably untrue, demonstrably false. And sometimes described in ways that sound like so cool and so awesome that when you find out there are real Satanists, you're like, oh, y'all invented rock music. Oh, like y'all like playing D&D, etc., right? And so
Satan doesn't even like rock music anyway.
No, when I grew up,
he likes salsa.
I learned about like the 7 different layers of purgatory. 7 different levels of hell. So,
yeah,
that was quite traumatizing.
Yes, as someone who's not Catholic, it always sounds very cool. Catholicism always sounds very cool because that wasn't my trauma. It's always like, man, you have such cool rituals. Oh, wow, there's like layers of hell. There's not just one. Awesome. But again, I wasn't a child who was being taught that. So that's why I feel that way. If you hear that like Satanists are real and they exist and you've heard all these things and they kind of sound cool and also like they're dangerous, like it's kind of like the way like if you have been taught a certain thing about drugs, you're like, oh, actually that's all fake. I can do any drugs that I want. And like there are some drugs that are real cool, but also
like I moved out when I was 18. I got like my own place. I got myself a nursing job. So like I moved out, and that's when I think it was like a couple of years later, a film came out called Paranormal Activity.
Right. Yeah.
That done me in. I was like, wait, what? Satan is surreal? I was like, wait, what? Are they this evil? And I was like, oh my, that in turn traumatized me because I was still like trying to figure out if I wanted to be Catholic still, or if I was still wanting to, go down the route of paganism, and I was still very, I think I was like 19 or 20 when like Paranormal Activity first came out. So I was still like a little bit like, because I was still fully in the grasps of God's watching everything I'm doing. He knows everything before I've done it. And I was still very much in that Catholic guilt mindset of not wanting to sort of burn in the 7 different layers of sort of hell for all eternity. So it was very difficult trying to sort that out. And and still to this day, even now, sort of being agnostic, I think about 6 years now,
Mhm.
being agnostic. Sometimes it's like you can take the person out of the church, but it's very hard to get the church out of that person's mind, if that's understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it
So
described before, like there's like hardware, software, like firmware, and like religion often is like
yeah,
firmware. A cool
yeah.
thing that you missed out by not being Protestant, and I don't know if as skeptically has this as well as an independent Baptist, but you do just get to say you're sorry for stuff, and like you're forgiven, so you can just do messed up stuff, and as long as you cry about it a little bit, and you're just like, I'm so sorry. It's like, well, it's all you're
I
washing the blood of the lamb. You don't have to think about it anymore.
I I can understand that because my mother's side are Catholics and my father's side are Protestants. My father converted over to being Catholic. I have both been baptized and christened. Family gatherings were fun.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. We've done all this, and I apologize. I'm a religion
Oh,
nerd.
don't
I like
worry
to
about
say I'm not spiritual, but I am
You're all
religious.
good.
Because I find it all very
You're all
interesting. I'm an anarcho Satanist. That's how I would describe myself now. It means I'm an anarchist Satanist. That means I don't though worship the devil. I don't believe there is an actual literal supernatural deity. Not God, but also not the devil. If anything, I'm a materialist. That's how I would describe my views and how ritual works. What is the point of ritual? It helps you to do the things that you want to do. It doesn't do spooky action at a distance. That's sort of like where I'm coming from.
It's like
And
mind frame
I am
centering.
Yeah, I mean, like I think if you tell yourself in your like own thoughts, like I shouldn't care about this or whatever, no matter how many times you repeat something in your own head, it might not mean as much as if you tell somebody else, as if you write something down. If you write something down and burn it, right? These sorts of things, when you like take your subjective experience and make them part of objective shared reality, it actually makes it different. And I think that's a useful thing for ritual to do. But I don't believe that I can change the world by lighting a candle in a certain way. However, I can help myself change the world better if I, do things repeatedly, right? I am an ex Satanic Temple member from Washington State. And I was in it for not that long of a time. It was only about a year. But then for 4.5 years, I was the target of a series of lawsuits from TST in federal and state court. And I even got pulled into a New York State federal lawsuit against a reporter and magazine that wrote about me. We won
What
all
made
of them.
you
So when I say these things, yeah.
what made you
Go ahead.
leave the Satanic Temple?
So I joined it thinking it was a certain thing. I had seen this. It's called the documentary. It's a lot more of a propaganda film called "Hail Satan" with a question mark by Penny Lane. And I met
Mhm.
people that were in it, including one of the first people that I met was someone who ended up being sued with me, Nathan Sullivan. He's a very cool guy. He was one of the founding members of TST Seattle, and he was someone who was a genuinely good person. He'd been there from the beginning. And when I went into it, it was like again, I was raised Southern Baptist, so the idea of there being like committees and like how is this organization run where there's committees and we vote on things and like people have to like take on positions and do work and we talk about budgets and stuff, all that boring things that people hate about organizations. CST Seattle was doing when I joined, but then at some point, someone who had been away came back and quote unquote pulled rank, which meant that we found out that like actually the way it was organized is two people in the org had like signed contracts with the national organization and they had all the rights over everybody else. So they could like unilaterally kick people out, which was very weird. Their names were on the paperwork and nobody else's. Yeah. So these sorts of things were bad. And then like kind of like the last straw was that there had been someone in the organization before my time, but with crossover with other people that I knew, who had been sexually harassed by an older member. They were like 19 or 20. This guy that had sexually harassed them for a long time was like in his late 30s or early 40s or so, I think. and this person had told leadership about it and nothing was done. And eventually the younger person left, and had asked like, hey, don't use like the image of me to promote yourself anymore, because I don't want to associate with y'all. And not even maliciously, but just out of incompetence, the org kept using this person to promote themselves. And like right when the pandemic is hitting in February and March of 2020, it all comes to a head. And it culminates in a dispute over this, like these like smaller things that kind of build up. And it's like, how do you treat people in your own organization? Into just unilaterally kicking out me and like 4 or 5 other people. I'm trying to remember how many it was. Like we all got kicked out at once, but only 4 of us got sued. And so it was just a weird thing. And yeah, that's once I was on the outside, I started talking to other people that were also ex-members and just found out a lot of other worse things about TST. But I was still the admin of the chapter Facebook page. And a week went by and they hadn't like contacted any of us to explain any of it. And they were like, basically like lying, you know, like they called like a group meeting and then just like tried to like cover up what they had done and why. And so I kicked out the other Facebook admins and moderators and just like posted like, hey, so here's the prank documentary that one of the owners did where he went to the South Pacific and tried to convince him that he was a carbon cult messiah. Here's the time that Lucian Greaves defended neo-Nazi Satanist Augustus Sol Invictus in the name of free speech. Here's when he went wild. And countermanded a local person, local group in I think it was Southern California, to tell Breitbart. He called up Breitbart and was like, no, actually TST supports Milo Yiannopoulos' like right to speak. It's like these sorts of things. And I think also at that time we knew that he had said the one like anti-Semitic quote about, I think it's okay to hate Jews if you hate them because they wear a stupid fucking frisbee on their head, et cetera, right? But we didn't know like the extent of that time. Anyway, telling people about that tends to, for most people, go, wow, that's weird. That sucks. I don't like that anymore. And so when they find it out, they tend to leave TST. And so TST didn't like that very much. And they sent a legal threat to me because I was the one who had done this, and claimed that they owned Facebook pages. When like, if you've ever run a Facebook page before, like, you know, Facebook owns Facebook pages, you know, like you don't own shit. Meta.com or Meta, corporation now, back then Facebook, they own everything about it. And so if you have a problem with these sorts of things, you tell Facebook to give you the Facebook page. Anyway, and it's also like right as the world is falling apart due to COVID. But they sent a legal threat and then just like sued me and apparently like 3 other random people that they just kicked out. And then we were suddenly being sued for 4.5 years.
So now
that's how that happens.
Did you all join together and kind of collectively, because I mean, I have to think that, you know, you got to show up to court, you got to get a lawyer, that all takes a lot of money. How were you able to stay afloat?
Yeah. I mean, we had to spend a lot of money. That's what happened. We weren't really connected in any way other than the lawsuit. Like we weren't like very close, you know what I mean? Like we weren't a group until they sued 4 of us. So we had to come up with $10,000 for the retainer, and then keep paying like the lawyer bills, which we did for years. Because what happened is we got it dismissed in February of 2021 and thought that might be the end of it. But then they just like, when something is dismissed without prejudice, when it's dismissed without prejudice, it means you can refile and like amend it. And they did that a couple of times. And then they lost, and they were able to appeal to a higher level. And it's a SLAP. It's a strategic lawsuit against public participation. The point is not to have merit. The point is just to like exhaust resources. And they did that. And so, yeah, we had to fundraise a lot, not enough to cover the legal stuff. I took out loans from the bank. We still have a Patreon. We still have a Redbubble. That's mainly just to like let people know what's going on. You know, we'll be paying it back for a while. We won everything because it was not a lawsuit that was based on any like facts. In fact, weirdly, the lawyer for TST went on Reddit and admitted that in comments. It's wild to me that he did that. It really is. It's okay. So in addition to him saying like outright, like I had to come up with a reason to justify like this being worth $75,000, he also used his old Reddit account that had him saying like the N-word slurs and talking about like how like sometimes women just make up sexual assault. it boggles my mind. The guy didn't take like 5 minutes to register a new account, but there you have it. I know. I'm seeing Sweet Pea's face right now. And like, yeah, it is ridiculous, and yet that is who supposedly is going to go out and win people's, rights for abortion or rights for,
Yeah.
indications or whatever. That's why TST keeps losing the lawsuits, because their litigation is not. It's very sloppy, and it's more based on malice than competence.
How are they holding on to membership? That doesn't make any sense to me. Are they
the thing is that TST, they're bleeding. Like, so they are, and it's not particular to TST. There are organizations that like they just kind of grab people, and then they just like run them through the meat grinder of just like you're taking people that show up and they're very excited because they saw Hulu has the documentary, or they saw an NBC article, or such and such Facebook page. Like, the other 98% shared the story we were talking about earlier, the Snap thing. That's 7 million followers. Sorry, CV.
Go ahead.
Is it a bit like Scientology, where they use fear and other things to try and keep members in line, to quiet them, to keep them hushed about what's going on inside?
They have been called Scientology for Molgoths, and I find Scientology for Molgoths to be a very funny, like, short description of them. But I mean, to your point, I mean, they have a history of sending legal threats to people. They sent a legal threat to me, and we actually fought them over it, which is why we won. But in 2018, when a bunch of them left over them using Mark Randazza, the Alex Jones's favorite lawyer, the neo-Nazi adjacent lawyer, a bunch of chapters and people left. And they wrote like articles about why they left. And then TST sent them legal threats saying that they had violated the non-disparagement clause, of their NDA.
Don't say anything bad about us.
Right. And then on top of that, like, they have like harassments. Like, they have both official harassment teams. Like, I know this sounds like wild, but my co-defendant, I won't say his name in this context just because I don't want to like reinforce this, but he lives in Seattle, and TST did a records request on somebody in Vancouver, Washington, which is like on the border with Oregon. So it's like 3 hours away, and accused my co-defendant of being a domestic abuser because someone with a similar name in another city in the States was a domestic abuser. They edited his face into a like legal video and like tried to like publish this smear. And we know that TST did it because it's pretty messed up. And it's not just that the website was highly like tied into it. It's also the person that did the request was foolish enough to use her own phone name and email. So when we did a records request for who requested the record, it came up, and it was like, that's an employee of TST. I know, like, these are the sort of things that like it sounds fun when you say Scientology for Molgoths until you look at the things they actually do, like sending legal threats to people and harassing people online. And like, there's like people that just like for a while they would just hound people online. They would do things.
That's what I was trying to get at, the serious nature of them using like power, intimidation, and blackmail to keep people quiet, because I think it needs to be exposed more, because it's disgusting. It is disgusting.
There was a former member who was in tears reading out basically not a disclaimer. Basically, she was retracting everything that she had said as a former member, her experience with the Satanic Temple. I mean, that is how badly shook they have people. My question then is, how is it? I don't even know how to phrase this.
It's like a cult.
Is it worth it for the I'm talking about the head, the hierarchy. Is it profitable to do this? Are they making money?
So I think so. I can't say this with certainty about how much money they're making. What I would say is two things. The first thing is that the two owners, which is Kevin Soling, who goes by the name Malcolm Jerry, or Doug Masicko, who goes by the name Lucian Greaves, or sometimes Doug Mesner. I think that money is not the primary aim. Because Kevin Soling, he's a New York City landlord. Like, he's a multi-generational landlord. His grandfather was a landlord. His father was a landlord and architect. Like, he has money. The reason why TST exists is that Kevin Soling wanted to do a prank documentary project about the nicest Satanist you've ever met. And he wanted to invent a satanic group for that. He had the money to like produce his own and direct his own movie. So I think money is primarily it. Kevin Soling also has his own Wikipedia article, which he very carefully makes sure does not include references to TST, because he wants to be a big, serious boy. He wants to be a public intellectual. He wants to be someone that, I have multiple Harvard degrees. Listen to me talk about why public schools shouldn't exist. Basically, TST exists because Kevin Soling hates public schools, and he wanted to find a way to sabotage them with like religious liberty arguments. I know. It sounds nuts, but
does he
that is sort of the
what is the genesis? What is the genesis of this? That is wild.
It's wild, yeah. Okay, so his opposition to public schools is not entirely like school abolition as a movement is not entirely like without merit. It's just that typically, if you are a like youth liberation school abolitionist, you're trying to replace school with something. You're trying to replace school with like greater autonomy for children. You're still providing resources for them to get like fed and have socializing and have education. But he goes on like Stefan Molyneux's podcast or Laura Ingraham or the Harvard Ideological Diversity Committee, to like with right wingers, and they're trying to end public schools so that you have like greater social stratification. I don't know if that's what his actual like motivation is, but that's who he's like friends with. And that's what TST was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a prank documentary where in Florida, there was like some bill about like religious liberty, and they were gonna have Satanists go and like pray in schools. And if you see the after school Satan or ass clubs, that's what that is. It's still him trying to like undermine them. And Doug Masicko or Lucian Greaves, he also agreed with Kevin Soling at this party they met at. And I think at some point, though, it morphed into something more because they got tens of thousands of dollars in donations for a Baphomet statue that didn't exist, that never went and actually showed up on the Oklahoma state capitol. It didn't do that. It wasn't important in the lawsuit, but no one cared because they got all the media coverage as if they were like integral in like stopping this 10 Commandments from showing up in Oklahoma. And no one followed up. No one followed up on the fact that like it was a Baptist minister in the ACLU that blocked the 10 Commandments. It was a cooler story. It's a much more fun story that Satanists were going to like put a Baphomet statue with Baphomet children, and that's why it didn't happen. And no one followed up that, actually it sits in Salem, Massachusetts, and people come and take selfies with it, and they have to pay tickets that go to a for-profit company to see that. People donated tens of thousands of dollars to make the statue exist, and now TST sells tickets for it, for you to come in and take an Instagram photo. And it's just because that story sucks. And the story that's cool and awesome and you want to tell is that Satanists blocked the 10 Commandments. Christian nationalists wanted to do blah, 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 but they didn't realize that Satanists would show up. Like, that's a fun story. People tell it all the time. It's just not true. And we've gotten away from this a little bit. But like the Snap story that was like originally shared, it was so cool to think that Christians suck and Christians are not actually feeding people and Christians are doing all these terrible things, and Satanists are going to feed anybody. If you can show the Satanic Temple that you lost your SNAP benefits, come on down and show them. And the thing that I think is like, to me obvious, but I think it's not obvious to other people, is where would you go? Like in your city, in there's TST UK, but like in your city, anywhere in the US, where would you go? Like, where would you physically show a receipt to someone in the United States? And the answer is like, they don't exist. They have one building open to the public in Salem, Massachusetts. And that's it. There's another building they own that's, I think, like a manufacturing or like it's a warehouse for their merchandise. But like, if you live in Detroit, there's no place to show up. There's no food distribution in Detroit or Miami or Louisville, Kentucky, or Albuquerque. It's just like people don't realize that because TST is pumped up by Christians to be really powerful and like a existential threat, but they're not really. And like you were asking about earlier, skeptically, membership burns through so fast that like they can't ever build anything because people realize, oh, I don't get to see where money goes. Oh, actually, we're more interested in like, building up this image of ourselves as opposed to doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the Satanic Temple was in the UK, but it dissolved in July 24 because for tax purposes, they didn't recognize the temple as a formal religion in the same way the US does.
Now that may have happened then. They also dissolved in 2023 when Lucian Greaves posed with the atheist transphobe David Silverman. And they also dissolved in 2018 when they became the Global Order of Satan. It just happens so often that the UK is a really weird case, and that like, and this happens at all the locals. Where, like someone like finds out, oh wow, like one of these guys tried to be a cargo cult messiah. One of these guys like went on a white nationalist rant or whatever, right? And then like they leave and then they reform, and people cover and like announce the like existence of things and like the founding of things.
Yeah,
really announce, like,
repackaging.
the end of
Yeah.
things. And so
repackaging and re-releasing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That cargo cult
and so,
story.
So I think like
I think we've got one too many in Christian Trump supporters in the UK for these satanic temples to stay open for so long.
Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult also because TST is malicious the way I'm describing it. It's also incompetent. It's also very US centric, and so every time there's like a European group, they tend to be neglected, and so that kind of like dissolves away or breaks off or whatever because they're kind of just on their own anyway. But like anytime these stories come up, they're always like they're heartening. People want to believe that like there is a group of Satanists out there that are as numerous and as powerful and as competent as the Christian nationalists are in the US. And like that's not actually true. That's not actually happening. And it's hard to like make yourself ask those questions when you want to believe that it's true. And so like I did go back and watch y'all's video from last week, and y'all were saying things like no one in the news is talking about this, right? And like you said, it's easier to think this thing is true, and because of like the consolidation of corporate media and whatnot, we're not allowed to like find out about it. But then like you do need to like take that next step of, why am I only hearing people talk about this on TikTok? Why am I only seeing someone like screenshot a threads or whatever? And like, what is their source? And that is one thing that people need to do a better job of.
Yeah.
Source methods are very important.
But
that is one thing that we will be doing going forward is making. Sorry, go on.
No, like I think like there's lots of people are talking about it. It seems like it might be true because Christians suck and you want to believe that like Satanists are better. But then like if you were to Google this, you were to Google, hey, does the Satanic Temple feed people? What you would see typically is an AI summary that says, yes, the Satanic Temple does food drives and feeds people. That AI summary is not accurate because AI is just like putting words in order, right? But also it's not accurate because if you check the source is the Satanic Temple talking about itself. And I think this is a really tough thing to do because like y'all were showing the 7 tenets and saying this sounds cool. I think that the Sermon on the Plain from the Gospel of Luke sounds pretty cool. If I only could judge Christianity by the Sermon on the Plain, blessed are the poor, for they will, like that's the one that's like the social liberation message. That sounds very cool. But that's not the only thing that exists. And also like people actually, there's a reality behind whatever the message is. And so like, it's very easy to look at the Satanic Temple describing itself in these like glowing ways. And because you want to believe it, you take it for granted in ways you would not do if they were Christian. If you knew this was a Christian church, you would start asking some questions. It's so hard to make yourself start asking stuff because there's a part of you that like wants it to be true, and even if it's not true in the specific case, it's true in the more general case. So your brain will start to like make up justifications, like, well, I mean, that's not true, but like basically it's true, right? Is the thing that you will do to yourself. It's hard to like notice yourself doing that.
You start gaslighting yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's really hard to like think about like, okay, so TST is going to feed everybody. And I think a really good question is, how many people did they feed last year? How many people specifically did the Satanic Temple feed last year? And I don't think you can find an answer to that anywhere because they didn't do it. You can look, if you've looked now, a couple of people who used to be in that Satanic Good Works program, the thing that Google AI was summarizing, was like, yeah, we had 3 volunteers and like $1,000 in the bank account, maybe. That's not enough to feed people who lose SNAP. But TST's never going to tell you that. TST will never send out a press release saying we have $1,000 in the bank account and 3 volunteers and 2 of them left because they found out about Doug saying something 20 years ago, or the way that he treats women in the organization. There's never going to be a press release that says that. And so when you want to defer to a press release, and I think this is also really hard, a lot of mainstream media and all kinds of media will just say such and such person said. And they do quote them accurately. So in that way, it is accurate journalism, but they're just doing stenography. They're accurately doing stenography. And if you ask my mother about me and she said, oh, he's the greatest boy who's ever been, right? That would be an accurate quote. Would it be true? Probably not. I'm all right. Yeah. I'm just some guy, right? The fact that my mother thinks I'm great is an accurate quote, but it's not getting to the heart of other claims about me. And it's hard to analyze media in that way of saying like, okay, this is just someone claiming things about themselves? No, it's a NBC report. It's a CBS news article. Okay, but what is it? They said they were great. TST said they were great about themselves. That's a hard thing to like notice, that like it's not actually built on anything. You don't actually see what the evidence would be. Like, what's the track record? Yeah.
So we need to be looking for unbiased sources, basically, then.
I won't even say unbiased sources. It's more just like, what is the reality behind the source? Because I think all sources are kind of going to be biased. Yeah. But like a lot of times when someone is in like an official position in an organization, they're just going to say what the organization wants. And the fact that like that organization has a lot of followers on Blue Sky, does that make them trustworthy about themselves? Maybe if they have a track record of proving that. But if not, I mean, I think a thing about cults is very important that we realize. Like, the best people to talk to about cults is ex-cult members. The best people to talk to is not people that are currently in the cult. People currently in the cult will always give you excuses for why it's different now. Oh, this didn't work out for them. Actually, we're better now that like we like expelled these people, right? The people that have like been out of the organization, they may not have an accurate view, but if you can talk to people over like 10 years who are all ex-members, you probably have a better idea of that group than people that are currently in it. So I feel like you get a better understanding of Jehovah's Witnesses by talking to ex-JWs. You understand the Mormon Church better by talking to ex-Mormons, etc.
Yeah, you get a lot of inside baseball that way. I mean, just that 2-hour video was, I mean, I have never seen that much data. It was so saturated and condensed. I mean, you could literally watch it a couple of times and you'll learn something new every time. It's like your brain heard it, your ears heard it, but it didn't quite register. And just the way they,
and I think it's also
treated people,
And you have to be willing also to do, and this is hard, but like you have to do the work. There kind of is no shortcut to this, because I think you're not wrong skeptically to say like, I like Seth Abramson, the thinking atheist guy. I like
Seth Andrews,
stuff. He kind of co-signing this dude. Seth Andrews. He's co-signing this guy, Lucian Greaves. He's talking to him. He sounds good. And Seth Andrews is, kind of saying, he's not explicitly doing this, but he's saying like, I think this is a trustworthy person. And you have listened to Seth Andrews and think he has a good opinion. But has Seth Andrews read all of the court cases of TST? And I think that's a too high bar for anybody, but you have to kind of temper your like trust in other people with like the fact that there is more to know, there's more to be known. And I think I run into with current TST people often, and then when they're out of the org, they change, is that like, I can say, if you read this document, if you look at this court case, you can see, well, they spent $180,000 buying a billboard and leasing the land for 18 years outside of Phoenix. And that sounds like a crazy thing, but TST claimed it themselves in a lawsuit against a billboard company. And like that kind of stuff is provable. And I understand people wanting evidence for things, but then you have to be willing to do the work to actually like look into uncomfortable things. And if you won't take someone's word for it, if you won't take someone's word saying this is what this says, and maybe you shouldn't, you do have to put in the work of reading the thing. And that's the really hard part, is that we're all so exhausted. There's so much misinformation. There's so much just information, period. And for you to get accurate stuff, you have to go, I want to learn something I don't want to learn. That is such a hard ask for anybody right now.
Sometimes it's worth being uncomfortable to get the relevant, truthful information that you need. So I don't mind reading stuff that makes me uncomfortable. I'd rather sort of grow more in knowledge.
Yeah, there's a good saying is I would much rather an uncomfortable truth as opposed to a comforting lie.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe that about both of you, but what I'm saying is that like it's hard to even like think you ought to, because when something is a thing you already think is true, you're not likely to do it. And I think the really hard thing that I'm not saying that I'm good at this. I'm not saying that I have like some like better brain than other people. But the thing I try to do is like when something like really hits all of my priors, I'm like, okay, but like this is hitting all my priors real hard. Is that true? And then like doing that work. I will dig deep into something that challenges my priors, and I will find evidence for stuff. There were things that like really already deeply agree with how I believe the world is. That's super hard. That's super hard to like want to do when you just want to you just want to like or retweet or tell your friends about it instead of going, okay, so as an example, the thing that was true, I'm preface this is a true thing. In my hometown, which is Odessa, Texas, there was a viral video that happened like over the weekend of a bunch of people in a Bass Pro Shop getting in a fight. A bunch of people in a Bass Pro Shop in Odessa, Texas, just got in a brawl for some reason. And I was watching it and I was going like, this is exactly what I think of my hometown. Like that, they would do that. Bass Pro Shop just opened in Odessa, Texas. This all tracks. But I couldn't find any news articles about it. And then I was like, let me go back and then looking, okay, did someone disappear and come back? Is someone's like hands wrong, whatever, you know? This is a true thing that did happen. But I was so primed to believe it. If it had been AI, I could have easily just gone, I could have like consumed misinformation, told other people, just because it was hitting everything I already thought about my hometown. And I wasted energy proving it was right. You know what I mean? Like I wasted energy like proving the thing had actually happened. So why would I bother to do that? But that is kind of the information environment that we're in. TST made a claim that I think when you are rightfully angry about, let me go back. TST in this case initially did not make a claim that they were doing this thing. In fact, it's a weirder thing where they had a static page where they basically, and I've said this before, TST is like a Potemkin village. They're like a studio lot town where the front looks like very like clean and very official. And you like poke behind and it's just like stilts behind it. Like there's nothing really there. But if all you're looking at is like the webpage and what they claim about themselves, you think it's true.
So I have
existed, and that's someone said something and there's an AI summary, and then people go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, do we know where it originated from?
So you had a question, but you cut out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So where did this claim originate from? Because it was taken up by so many content creators. I mean, where did it come from? Where did this idea?
I couldn't pinpoint where it came from. I suspect it started on TikTok, but that's only because I cannot search TikTok super well to find this. The earliest thing I could find was a Blue Sky claim where someone said evangelical churches or like mega churches aren't going to feed the hungry, but the Satanic temple will. And someone like quote unquote fact checked him by Googling it and screenshotting an AI summary, right? But I don't know if that had a direct influence on someone on Threads making the claim. And weirdly, they made it, they didn't spell satanic right. It was like Satanic. is how they spelled it.
Yes,
But then
Santana.
someone else screenshot that or applied the quote to the thing. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then the
and
one that I saw like really hit big was the other 98%, which is like 7 million followers did that. And then like other people were making the claim too, but like it was showing up in so many videos that I don't think that had a source. I think it was just a thing someone claimed because they wanted it to be true, or they just misunderstood an AI summary. And then people kept repeating it saying, I heard that. Someone said that. Did you know that? Breaking it. And like
Mm.
no one was sourcing it because there was nothing to source it to. But because you're not claiming it, you're saying someone else claimed it. It makes it easier to like pass along. You don't have to like challenge that person's like motives, that person's like credentials, because they're not saying that they were the source. They're saying that like someone said. And I think that's sort of how it happened because people wanted to believe it, and because at each step, like the friction wasn't there to question it or like slow it down. It's like accelerated so fast. That's how I think it happens. I don't have like access to like the back end of social media, obviously, but just like trying to do a search and like track it down over a couple of days. That's what I found.
Go ahead. Oh, one
I
sec.
hate Hearst County.
So I'm gonna go through my Facebook because
Sure.
Oh.
His video thing is haunted. Don't mind it. Ignore it.
yeah, it's gonna be right here. Damien Carrion. This is October 28th.
That was that. Yeah. Timu Marilyn Manson.
Who is this person? Are they connected with ST or TSS?
They claim to
TST?
be. Yeah, that person claims to be. I don't know if that actually is a real person connected to TST or not. When I look at the things that person posts on their Facebook page, it does not lead me to find them to be a credible source for a lot. They say breaking a lot. They say breaking about lots of stuff, including like international politics with no source. They could have just made it up. I don't know if they actually had like any kind of source for that. They could have just made it up.
Yeah, so this person is an artist, musician, vocalist, humanist, and a couple of he's showcasing his art. He's got this is an hour ago he posted,
Yeah.
so he does some anime style art and some fan fiction.
Yeah,
Wow.
sure. And that's where you would know that if you're losing SNAP benefits, TST will be there for you. And the last I checked, it had gotten like 4,500 shares. Like I don't know if people had seen it, but like 4,500 people saw that person just put text on a red background and make a claim. They shared it as if it was true because they said. I think that one is like the evangelical church is the phrase. It's like which one? The evangelical church.
The
It's not like the
evangelical
Catholic
church.
There's
That's
lots
so
of- there's like-
show specific, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, it's hard to like question that. Yeah, Sweet Pea.
Also, anyone else, or is it just me? But does TST sound like a dangerous STD? Or is it just me?
Yeah, and get tested. Get tested for TST for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we know TST is not a good source for anything, is there anything that comes close to TST that is actually doing the work that we wished TST was doing?
I mean, you don't want to hear this. The answer is lots of Christian churches. And hear me out. I'm not a Christian. I'm not doing apologism for them. But in terms of like the scale to actually feed people, like in Seattle, who feeds people? Christian churches. Like Union Gospel Mission feeds people, I think, a couple of times a week. Like they've actually, again, actual physical locations. They have actual volunteers who show up who commit to feeding people for free regularly. There's also stuff like Food Not Bombs, which is an anarchist, thing that's been doing it for years. I think they do it once a week in Pioneer Square in Seattle, and they're doing it like out on the street. But typically, like it's going to be done by churches because they have the infrastructure and they have the people willing to do it. Now, the criticism of that is that they're not being hypocritical when they oppose SNAP for the most part. There are some Christian churches that are like actually charitable. But the ones that like hate SNAP and want you to come to them is because they want to have coercive power over you. They want to feed you so that your belly being full is reliant on them. That's entirely in line with their beliefs, right? If you are someone who wants to kind of isolate people and make sure that they have to like come to an abusive religious organization, you want to have the stuff to offer people, and they do. So I think like that's the bad answer, is that like charity cannot make up for SNAP, but also it shouldn't make up for it because it's conditional. It's conditional on like them asking you probing questions about like, oh, I see your kid there. Where's the father? Now it's like, talk about your family life. Oh, you're not married, you know? You have to like, oh, we don't like it when you have that tattoo. Please cover that tattoo up. When you need to get fed, they get to make decisions about your life and body that you don't want. And the thing they hate about SNAP and other programs like that is that you get it just for being alive.
Yes.
You get it just for being alive, right? And they're not being hypocrites about it. They're not. It's just that like their version of charity is a thing that can be withdrawn, and you can't, except for times like this, withdraw entitlements, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, these kinds of things. They can do it. It just sucks. It sucks that there is no secular equivalent that just feeds everybody, because I mean, I am an atheist. I don't believe in any higher power. Man, those fucking Christians, they show up every Sunday and sometimes on Wednesday, and they meet and they politically organize, and they have an entire like dual power structure that we don't have. And that sucks, because they're the ones that are like pulling resources for childcare that people would love to use. We don't have it. So I mean, food banks are, again, I left out food banks because they're not like cooking meals for people, as far as I know. I'm not aware of food banks that do that. That's for most secular people. That's what you would do. You would give money to food banks so they could buy food, so people could like come and get it. But unfortunately, there is no one weird trick to replacing SNAP. And I think that's what made it so attractive, right? It was so cool. Like, hey, if you got your SNAP cut off, go to the Satanic temple. They'll take care of you. And that's just not true. There is no like happy way to end that. It just doesn't exist. There is no equivalent to SNAP. Unfortunately, there's no like satanic or pagan or atheist or secular or whatever equivalent to these things, because we just haven't done the work for generations of building it. Sorry.
No, well, no, thank you for the letdown. No, the thing is, it's, yeah, well, I guess we could start now. Well, let me ask you this. Are you a part of let me ask you about QueerSatanic. Talk to us about what QueerSatanic is.
Yeah, and QueerSatanic, for the time we were being sued, it was just 4 people being sued. That's all it was. And I will say, at no point do I ever have pretensions of or desires to being what CSC claims to be. I have some questions about whether you can like build a coalition under Satanism, because like it's so oppositional. The history is it's problematic in a great degree. It has some things well, and I won't say that like doing mass feeding programs is what that is. But when I try to feed people, my boyfriend likes to make large meals, so we introduce ourselves to our neighbors and say, hey, if you want to get fed on Monday and Thursday, just let us know and you can get anything. I am active in my labor union. I am still trying to see like, what are we doing about staff, guys? What are we doing to like take care of people? Those are the avenues in which I think it is useful, because I typically, and I for Satanists that are listening to this, I don't mean this in a mean way. Satanists are typically not serious people. They're not serious about doing the work of building community and putting up with people we don't necessarily like to do things that actually show up for people. And so when I'm trying to do that, I'm doing it through other non-satanic things, even though I myself may Satanist as I do them.
Do you think it'd be possible that Satanists who want to do good, who want to help people and also be all inclusive, do you think they could start a church that is called Satanic Diversity Sanctuary?
I think so. I think
the name might need work though.
You could start a new thing, and maybe it would be better this time. But this happened a lot, and like the hard thing is that like you still got to deal with people. You still got like the hard problem of people. No matter what you call yourself, you got to deal with people, right?
Yeah.
And like So I'm really frustrated at TST because this false claim happened last week, and then today they announced in a press release they were actually doing something. And the thing
Yeah,
that
I
they
can't
announced they were
believe
actually
that.
doing is actually not that bad. Each local group, right? But each local group says, "Hey, give to a local food bank." Right? That's not a bad thing. It's not the worst thing.
No.
But the problem is that like it's still pushing the misconception that TST is doing something as opposed to you are doing things. You are doing things.
Yeah.
TST's not doing anything. The food bank is doing
Yeah.
things. You're doing anything.
Mhm.
And then also that like
Yeah.
TST, when they announced this, made the first link themselves in their own like bank account. And it's so irritating that like most people
It
won't do
is.
what we've been talking about, the level of like critical analysis to see like, yeah, what's being said, where's the money going, and asking like, how do you know where the money's going? If you give to a food bank, you can see where it's going. Yeah.
I'm starting to see the Satanic temple as like Kenneth Copeland, conning people into giving money and then just like spending it on what they want without actually telling the people who've given them money where that money is actually going. And that's not a good thing. That's really not a good thing.
It's weird to me that other people don't demand to know, because again, I was raised Southern Baptist. A very typical thing is that you just know, here's how much came in tithes this week. Here's where we're going to spend it. We're going to spend this much on missions. We're going to spend this much on like building maintenance. You would vote on the budget. That was a thing you did in Southern Baptist churches. There was no legal requirement to like post your budget online, but like lots of them did it. And a lot of people come into Satanism and TST specifically, and they go, well, it's not Christianity, so it must be good. But they don't have like the expectations of how a nonprofit ought to be run. And I think you're 100% right that like people need to have a higher standard for where they're spending their money, even though like we don't understand, like it's hell. It fucking sucks out there. And you just want to do something that matters. Someone's doing something, you want to support them. But I think it is still worth, unless if you're a billionaire, give money to anybody. I don't care. But if you're someone's like trying to figure out where has best spend money, don't paralyze yourself, but do some basic diligence of like, okay, what is the track record of this organization? Can I see them actually like achieving things? Can I see where the money is going? If you can't see those things, maybe there's a better place to spend your money. And this is true of political organizations. It's true of like all kinds of nonprofits. It's not just TST, but it is a thing that we need to be.
Well, on that note, there's a person.
He's
Hello?
disappeared.
Okay, we'll wait for him to come back.
Yes. So anyways, how are you doing today?
I am doing okay. On the subject that we were talking about, so the subject of who is best to support, there is a TikTok account that I follow called the Well-Read Black Girl. What she said, and this, she said, imagine if you had $100 bill in your hand and you went into a grocery store. How many groceries do you think you'd come out of that store with? Now she said, imagine giving that same $100 to a food bank. They will come out of that same grocery store triple the amount of groceries that you would, because they get things heavily discounted, sometimes even free, just because they're a food bank. So she said, if you want more bang for your buck, give to a food bank. And so maybe
it's
local
bad to give to food banks because, like you said, like they can money, right? Like that's always great. And I think like you can see the work they're doing. You can talk to people that are using their services to see if it's going well. And I think that's a great point to make. And I also think, and I'm an anarchist, so I'm saying this from this background, mutual aid in the real sense, not like doing charity yourself, but mutual aid of like making connections with other people, talking to people, giving them things and then giving you things back. And it doesn't have to be like a monetary equivalence, but it's like you are mutually reliant on each other is, to me, the most important thing you can do. Because we were talking about the churches earlier, if your relationship to helping people is from above and outside, and you are deigning to help someone, you can always deign this. You can stop, right? You can just be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And And sometimes all you need is just help when you couldn't help anybody. But I think the strongest bonds are when you find ways for someone to help you. So if you cut them off for some reason, you'd lose something. And like community is like us kind of going back and forth in mutual indebtedness. And we're not solving problems for someone, we are making connections. And I give someone food and they help me take out my trash because I'm bad at taking the trash out. They're good at cooking. I am good at doing the dishes. They're good at like calling people and talking to them on the phone when I can't. These are like very small things, but like that's the kind of community building that I think is resilient in ways that like if ICE comes, if the dudes with guns come, you're going to care about someone that's helped you out in a way you might not care about someone you've just done nice things for with nothing in return. So that's my anarchist spiel about like you have to be willing to take help from people and seek that out, because it's very easy to choose unidirectional stuff and it's very hard to choose the mutual aid aspect.
Yeah, I agree. It's people helping people. We say that we tell people who are in fundamentalist Christianity, or you name the religion, we say your God isn't going to help you. Okay, but who's going to do the helping? That's going to be you and I. People helping people. And we've got to get back to grassroots guerrilla warfare when it comes to mutual aid, like you said. And
yeah,
because we're all we have.
Mm-hmm. It's giving your neighbor a cup of sugar when they ask to borrow one. It's them giving a cup of flour when you ask if you can borrow one, you know?
It's I would die for the revolution, but would you talk to your neighbor when they need to borrow the sugar? like so many people are like willing to go to like the most extreme thing. Like you're saying, like, do you know your neighbor's name? Do you have their phone number? If like you had a problem, could you go to them with it? And would you just like give them things for free? And I think like that's a really good example of like, it's so trite, it's so cliche, but it's everything. That's what community is. That's what neighbors are.
I lent my neighbor a cup of sugar in one of my glasses, and she took my glass with her when she moved.
Well, that'll teach you to be nice, you know?
Okay, so I am not a Buddhist, but a phrase I've always liked is drink from the cup that's already broken. And now you've taught me a new thing just now. Lend the cup like it's already gone. Lend the cup like it's already been taken away. Like that is an actual good principle to have. I enjoyed talking with y'all.
Yeah, it's
doing I feel like I've kept a lot.
One more time?
It's doing.
Go ahead. Go ahead, David.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying I've enjoyed talking to y'all. I feel like I have exceeded the limits of like what y'all's plans were.
No, you're fine. We are thoroughly enjoying the conversation. You're totally okay. I was just going to say it takes one random act of kindness. And if everybody does one random act of kindness, hopefully that will help to change the world for the better.
So where can...
I appreciate you all for the act of kindness of inviting me on tonight.
No, thank you for joining us. So this was...
thank you. Yes.
Didn't know if it was going to happen or not, but we thought, hey, what the hell? Strike while the iron is hot, because you never know where it's going to lead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've learned so much stuff, like in the last 12 hours than I knew before. That I wish I knew before.
When it comes to Satanic Temple, there's always more and it's always worse. And you see that and you're like, there's no way. And then you just keep looking into it. There's no way. Yeah.
I think I said that to you last night while I was watching that documentary. I was like, just as I think it can't get worse.
Yeah. Right. I'm still waiting for someone to do the there's somebody that's got to be like in TST in the last year or so that has access to the financials. I'm still waiting for that. I've talked to people they can like give me round figures, but I can't like quote those, you know, out loud.
Yeah.
Do you
But I
know-
really just like want to know like where's the money going?
Yeah. Do you know the interesting thing that I thought though is that the Satanic Temple going after the Westboro Church, but they're just as bad as Westboro Church as far as the racism, the anti-Semitism, and you know the anti-LGBT thing within them. And I was just like, oh, wait a minute, this is kind of ironically sort of vile of you. You're condemning Westboro Church, yet your views are just as bad. Like, come on now.
Well,
You know?
I mean, I will defend TST in the sense that, like, I don't think they're quite as bad as the Westboro Baptist Church. I think they are, and I mean this, like, with as much kindness as I can, classically liberal. Like, they are right libertarians, is what they are. They are not actively transphobic, but they probably think trans you know, issues go too far. I talked to someone who used to, like, teach an actual Satan club, and that was the feedback they got. I think that, like, their issues are, so as a good example, the Westboro Baptist Church is like virulently anti-gay, but TST
they are.
back in 2013 they did what you're talking about, the pink mass, which was having 2 women, 2 men, a kiss over Fred Phelps' mother's grave, and then Doug Masico like teabagged the grave, right? So that's very funny, and it got a lot of positive coverage at the time. But if I'm remembering right, they admitted in depositions that they paid actors to do the kissing because they couldn't find actual queer people to do it. And I think that's the kind of homophobia and queerphobia that like TST represents. It's this like artificial thing.
Yes, exactly. I'm not saying that they're all like that, but the ones that are being like that, just stop.
But who do they? But who do they hang around with? You can't help but judge them by the company that they keep. It's kind of a red flag, you know. It's like
you are the company. You are the company you keep, and I think like that really is important. And a thing you'll hear me say a lot is, you are what you do repeatedly. You become more of what you practice at. And TST, the Satanic Temple, does and practices at spectacle, but spectacle that has nothing behind it. And I think if all it were spectacle, and it were just like getting attention for good things, if they had their abortion stuff and they funneled money towards actual abortion access funds, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And if they did this thing and all they were doing was funneling money towards like food banks, I would have a problem with that. But instead, they're like a tapeworm. They are the ones that are sucking up the resources that need to go to people actually able to use it.
So is this another case of white men sticking their dicks where they're not supposed to again?
Okay, so in the Westboro Baptist Church pink mass, literally, that is what that is. But yeah, it's Kevin Soling and Doug Masico are 2 men who don't reflect the desires of the membership. We didn't talk about this, but Kevin Soling, he is a Zionist. I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean, he gave an interview with the Times of Israel where he said that it is equivalent to blood libel to say that the Israeli military kills Palestinian children. So he's a non-profit set up to smear Palestinians and pro-Palestinian speakers on campuses. And even though most TSTers you'll ever meet say that the genocide in Gaza is awful, TST will never say that because it's owned by a guy who is a Zionist who hates Palestinians. And I think the fact is that it's a hierarchical organization owned by 2 men who do not reflect the interests of the membership. And I wish the membership just could understand that and act accordingly instead of trying to reform a thing that is unreformable. It is doing what it's meant to do, which is make headlines, get spectacle, and then funnel money to those 2 guys and their interests.
Here's what I'm getting out of this entire story. This is bumblefucking to the 12th power. This is a golden opportunity. They have this window of opportunity to totally rebrand themselves, collect even more money in donations, and say, hey, here's what our plan is. Let's crowdfund this. They wouldn't even have to use their own money, and the goodwill that they could generate from this. You've already got people talking about you. All you got to do is jump on the bandwagon and say, "Oh yeah. We got the sign. Just grab a sign and hold it. Yes, We're going to help. We're going to help the needy. Damn the government for taking away SNAP benefits, and we're going to do everything we can. Even if it's a couple of hundred that they help. There's your propaganda right there. Why aren't they capitalizing on this? I don't get it.
Because they don't care. They don't care about the people.
You don't have
to look at it.
You don't have to care.
Yeah, and also they're getting all the good press anyway. They don't have to do anything.
Well, that's true. But
right. I mean, think about it. Like, think about how many people saw that week where people were saying TST is going to save everybody. Think about how many people will see anything that says they're not going to. Right? We're talking about tens of millions of people that saw TST will save you if you run out of Snap. Talking about hundreds, maybe thousands of people that learn that's not true.
Yeah.
And the next time TST comes up in the news, people who saw that will go, "Oh yeah, those are the guys that saved Snap. Those are the guys that saved abortion." Because there's no,
and they didn't.
No one likes to hear. No one likes to hear Santa Claus isn't real. No, the headline is Santa Claus real. People say if Santa Claus isn't real, no one wants to hear that. So it just doesn't penetrate consciousness because these are dark times, and you want to believe there's a simple fix.
No, exactly. And this is why it's important to push it back against the misinformation that is going on out there so people know the truth of the actual sort of layout of things, that they are not actually helping people. They're just claiming the clout from the misinformation that's going on. So it is important that we push back against this because we don't want them getting good press for something that they're not actually doing.
And I don't want to contribute to that.
I feel like
me neither.
And I feel like I know more about I feel like I know more about the Satanic Temple than anybody alive. And I mean that without like trying to
no, that's fine.
Pop myself up. I've just spent years of like being sued by them, of like talking to forum members, of reading their depositions, of reading their like financial documents. Like I've done the work. I can spot their bullshit. And because of this years of experience, I don't think I will ever be victim to their bullshit. Let's say that, right? But other people also shouldn't be victim to their bullshits based on the things we talked about. And
so they've fully backed off.
And
they've backed off.
No, what they did is they leaned into it. They claimed they have a Satanic Good Works program that actually does this thing, even though if you read it and click on it, they say give to local organizations doing it.
Right. No. What I mean,
the first donation link. Yeah.
As far as you are concerned, have they backed off from attacking you legally?
Oh yeah. They finally gave up after they sued us in federal court. It got dismissed. They dismissed without prejudice. They filed an amended complaint, they amended it again, and then they got dismissed in part. They got dismissed in full, and they refiled in state court, and then they appealed in federal court, and they brought us into a lawsuit in New York, and they lost. They lost all those things, and it's eventually like, it hurt them enough that like they just said couldn't keep it going, I guess. So I'm free until they sue me again, and they could. I mean, in the United States, you can sue anybody for anything. That's what makes us a free country. The rich and poor alike can spend $10,000 filing a lawsuit. But I feel like because I've already been in this, like I have a obligation to tell other people, because so many other people that I feel like would have wanted to tell people just were afraid or were not financially able to like be courageous and stand up. But as good as I am on this one issue, there are so many things that you can tell me that I would not do exactly what I've said of like, hey, ask questions, because I want to believe it. I want to believe the thing is true. And
well, let's go to a quick intermission while we wait for our guests to come back. Welcome back.
Right, we all disappeared. We're all back. It's like it's really hard to put this energy into everything, because I'm still susceptible to misinformation, and I'm saying this because I also need to do better, but we all need to do better about things we don't already know, because you can spot this stuff when you know a lot about it. When you don't know a lot about it, it's so hard to spot it.
Mm-hmm. No, we want to thank you sincerely for coming on and sharing your knowledge
Yes.
with us. You know, we want to be held accountable if we're accidentally spreading misinformation. We want the pushback. We want to be held accountable. You know, we're both willing to like hold our hands up and learn from things. You know, we both have open minds, and you know, we are thirsty for knowledge. You know, the more we know, the better. You know, for getting the right information out there. We don't want to be pushing any misinformation whatsoever. So we really do thank you for your time and knowledge that you have sort of provided us to sort of know more and sort of learn more.
Yeah, thank you all so much for again having me on here. And if I haven't made it clear, like, have you seen that meme of Garfield, you know, saying that you're not immune to propaganda? I wonder who that's for. Thing like sometimes you're the Garfield and you just don't realize that you're not immune to propaganda. And I can see it in this, and I want people to give their money and time to useful things. And it's just a kind of a constant reminder that, like, as skeptical as we are, as like atheistic as we are, as whatever, there's still other things that is like it's so hard to not buy into. And I appreciate y'all giving me this opportunity to talk with y'all. And I also thank y'all so much for like spending 2 hours of your life first watching the Dead Domain video, and then spending more hours of your life listening to me here today.
That's okay.
That's okay.
You have
I'm actually subscribed to Dead Domain, but for some reason I forgot. And then when you shared that video, I was like, oh, I'm actually subscribed to them. I'm like, oh, cool. But I just can't remember exactly when I did. So
yeah, you have an open invitation to come back. So yeah, you know, doesn't have to be right away. I mean, I know this is kind of impromptu, but yeah, let us know if, you know, if you have a topic that you'd like talked about. We're open. If you know anybody in your circle that would like to be a guest on the show, here we are.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell us about this moniker.
I'm a little less.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Be gay, do crime, hell, Satan.
Yes. Is that what you're Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So be gay, do crime is a anarchist slogan that is, I think mid 2000s where it comes from. There's an old like 19th, early 20th century political cartoon that has an anarchist skeleton with a scroll. I don't know if you've seen this before, but someone edited in the phrase "be gay, do crime" onto that. And the source of that phrase, I think, is that like essentially in lots of societies, including America, like to be a queer person is to like be doing a crime. Like it is historically.
That's what I wondered.
Criminal to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like sodomy was it was possible to make that illegal in the United States until 2003. Maybe again, things are going bad. But even like New York City in the 1960s, I think it was that if you were a quote unquote man and you didn't have some number of pieces of clothing of like male clothing on you, then you were like guilty of cross-dressing, and therefore you were assumed to be like soliciting prostitution, whatever, right? Just like being a trans woman in society in New York City or San Francisco in the 1960s was to be committing a crime. So be gay, do crime is that. And the hell Satan aspect is that intensifier of that, like if Christians say that like well, you know, the devil is when you don't dress your gender, and when you kiss people you're not supposed to kiss, and when you just you don't love the cops and the police, and you think bankers are bad. If you're saying that is the devil, then I will go to the devil. So be gay, do crime, hell Satan.
Awesome. Where can people follow your work?
Yeah, on social media, we are at QueerSatanic pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
Initially, we were a Facebook page called QueerSatanic Memes, but then like that's too long for some social media, so it's all been shortened to QueerSatanic. And then we also have QueerSatanic.com, and if that's too complicated for you, we have campsite.bio /QueerSatanic, and that says like all of these links where you're going like, there's no way that TST is this bad. We have the links for all these things, so that's where we're at.
Yeah. Like I said to you earlier, I followed you on Blue Sky, so I will be reading articles that you pop out. So I can sort of learn and know
We'll
more.
include the link. Is it okay if we include the links to your socials in the description of this
Sure,
video?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're public. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. We're more than happy to do that. And like I said, if you spread the word, if anybody else would like to, share their experiences and, or it doesn't even have to be this topic. It could be just Satanism in general. Tell us, what you believe and why you believe it. They're welcome. Just you know where to find me.
Oh yeah, and I also recommend it's in our socials, but the Ave Satanis podcast, which is it's not me, but it's the Free Society Satanists out of Georgia, where they're based. Anyway, the podcast, and we recently did a series on. Yeah,
I think
it was like
subscribed to them earlier.
Yeah, we did like a 7-part series on a horrible book, the proto-fascist work "Might is Right," which is the ur-text of Satanism and why that's important. And so that's, if you're someone who likes to listen to stuff, I would check that out. And also, they are another example of anarcho-Satanists, people that are doing Satanism and not doing it in a gross way or a bigoted way, but in a trying to increase the amount of justice and liberty in the world.
All right. Well, thank you, David Johnson, for joining us. We appreciate all the time that you've given us. You've been more than generous, and this was a cracking good time. I thought. What'd you think, P?
No, I thought it was very informational and a really good learning experience. It's definitely sort of made me more aware of looking up proper credential sources and other sources to make sure the information that we got is correct. It's very eye-opening because I know that we've continually repeated this through our shows. We do not want to be spreading disinformation. So this is a really good learning experience to make sure that, we put out the right information there. Also, as well, David, I hope you don't mind, but I've just subscribed to your YouTube channel as well as to you on Blue Sky.
Sorry, the last thing I heard was we do continually repeat this throughout our shows, and then I lost you immediately after what the thing you were about to say was.
Okay, so I was just saying that throughout our shows, we do continually say that the last thing we want to do is spread any misinformation. So I was just thanking you again for sort of opening our minds up and giving us, more information so that we are able to sort of combat disinformation being out there. It was a good learning curve having you on. Yeah. Also, I said that I subscribe to you on YouTube as well as Blue Sky, and I hope you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you so much for doing that. That's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. We'll go ahead and wrap the show up with some exit music, and want to thank our guest for showing up. Thank you, Sweet Pea, for showing up impromptu, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care, everybody.
Yes. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to grab a brush and put a little makeup. You wanted to act disgusting when the shake up. You wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? You wanted to. I don't think you trust in my